Patterson here with Boomerocity, and before I get into what this episode is all about, as I have the last couple of interviews I've done, and I don't know when they're going to post, which will post before the other, I'm going to address the blaring glimpse of the obvious here, and that is how my face looks at this moment. As a public service announcement, I am just going to tell you that I had some little spot on my nose that I thought was insignificant. And when I went into my dermatologist about something else I was concerned about on my body, I just, as an aside, just said, hey, I had this little thing happening here. It's kind of comes and goes. I don't think it's any big deal. But they took a biopsy on it, and it turned out to be a deal. I still didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. They said they had scheduled and wanted me to come in to have Mohs procedure done, which is where they go in and cut at it, run a test on it, come back, and if they got it all, they let you know and send you on your merry way, or they go back in and cut some more. Well, they went a total of 3 times to get it all, and I was in that chair for 5.5 hours, but they got it all, and all is good. And the reason why I'm telling you about this is if I hadn't have done anything about it or didn't happen to just mention it to the dermatologist, who knows what that would have led to. So I'm asking you, if you have any spots on your body, don't take it for granted that they're okay. They may not be, and there's a good chance they won't be, but go have a professional dermatologist look at it. It may save your life, and it certainly make you and your family a lot happier. So about this episode has been in the making literally since almost the beginning of Boomerocity. And towards the end of the first year of Boomerocity, I was interviewing the Canadian artist, Sass Jordan. Amazing artist, look her up. She's phenomenal. I think you'll love her. I know I do. And in that first interview, I interviewed her, I think, 3 times. In that first interview, she asked me if I was aware of a gentleman by the name of Ryan McGarvey. And I said I did not, but I would check him out. He had just come out with his first album about a year or so before. And when I lit that thing up, man, I was ecstatic. I loved his style, great blues artist and rock and roll. And I became an immediate fan. I met him at the Dallas International Guitar Show. A year or 2 after that, we met. We kept saying we're going to do an interview. It just never happened until now. During that time, Ryan has faced a lot of challenges, and he's come through very successfully on them. We'll talk about that in this interview, but even equally as important, we're talking about his new album entitled Up From the Ashes, and it is amazing. If you've never heard Ryan before, you're going to absolutely love him after hearing this album. But listen to this interview. Listen to his story. It's an amazing story. There's some technical glitches in there. The sound on his end kind of comes and goes. I've done my best to improve it, but I don't know that it was good enough. But so you may have to listen close from time to time. But it's worth taking the effort to listen to, believe me. While you're at it, would you hit like while you're listening to it and subscribe to Boomerocity if you haven't already? It's not going to cost you a dime, but it sure helps us on our end. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope is going to be many more interviews to come with my good friend, Ryan McGarvey. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity, and please get those spots checked by your dermatologist. Take care. Ryan.
There we are. Hey, buddy. How's it going?
It's going well. Despite how I look, it's actually going pretty well. So.
They're great.
Well, man, I have wanted to interview you literally, Ryan, for years. And in fact, you and I, you probably don't remember this. In fact, I'm sure you don't. We bumped into each other at the Dallas Guitar Show, Jimmy Wallace's deal, when I was still living there. And I walked up to you. In fact, to tell you the truth, I was right in the middle of interviewing Mike Zito there. We just dove into an empty booth there, and I was interviewing him, and he said, hey, hold on a second. There's somebody I need to go see. And he ran one direction. I saw you coming from another. I went up and said, "Hey, Ryan, Randy Patterson here." And you and I had been exchanging notes back then. And
Yeah,
you
definitely.
just grabbed me and gave me a big old hug, man. That made
Right.
me feel good. So,
I forgot about that. I did forget about that. That was a great day. That was so many different people. You bounce around everyone, someone at that thing.
oh, yeah, gosh, you never know who you're going to bump into there. And then I got to watch you perform later, or maybe it was before then. I think you and your dad had just like literally pulled up. I was outside. It was an outdoor stage. I think
Right.
Sonny Landreth, I think, was on the stage with you,
Okay.
and saw you and your dad hop out of the car. I think it was a little Bronco or something, or one of those smaller SUVs, and you're pulling your gear out, and you're say, all right, where do we go? So you must have just like slid into home and was getting
Right.
ready to go with that. So,
Awesome. Oh, that's great.
well, Well, man, I am thrilled. I've been following your
Thank-
career. I can't remember if I told you this or not, but how I even learned about you was during my first interview with Sass Jordan
Yeah.
back 2010. Yeah, 2010. So it's towards the end of my first full year of doing Boomerocity. And she mentioned you, and I said, I got to check this dude out. You had just
Awesome.
come out with your first album a year or two before, and
Right.
been following you ever since, man. So this is
Very
a
cool.
thrill for me.
She was always such a influence. She had an album that's still one of my all-time favorite rock albums of ever. And I was such a fan of hers, and she got wind of me because I kept mentioning her in interviews and in magazines and stuff, quoting that. I was like, yeah, what I love, House Jordan's like a kind of obscure kind of one that like people are usually not probably not too familiar with when thinking the blues rock guitar world kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she caught on that way, and then when we kind of became friends that through that, and then I've there's like connections like to you that have been
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And then I finally met her. I think it was in 2018, I believe. We did a festival together in Europe and stuff that
Oh wow!
she played right before I did, and
Wow!
then there was even more connections. If I had my bass player for that tour was Carmine Rojas,
Oh, I
who
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so
What a.
I met him originally through Joe Bonamassa when he was playing with him, and
Mm-hmm.
we hit it off, and we've just been good friends since, and it was working out. But he's played with David Bowie, Rod Stewart, Tina Turner,
Mm-hmm.
just name it. He was kind of this hidden, force behind all of the big stuff. But he is like the studio guy, and that album back in the day was all Carmine. And he was on the entire Sass
Oh.
album, and it was our other friend Tal Bergman, that's a great
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
drummer,
The
that
drummer.
he did it
Yeah.
all. And I was like, it was just one of those small world moments that was like, oh, we all know, like, that's crazy, But
That's wild. Well, I think I told you this story already, but I'll put it on the record. I won't mention my friend's name, but we were going to catch Joe's show. In fact, it was the first time I ever saw Joe in concert. It was in Dallas, and a buddy of mine. It's a long story short, but he flew down from Arkansas and I treated him to the show. Joe's people gave me tickets, and I didn't know. During that time, Joe would just spring artists on the crowd in the middle of his shows. And oddly enough, my buddy and I, we went to dinner before the concert, and we're sitting there talking. I said, "Man, you got to check out this guy Ryan McGarvey." And I mentioned it. Went into some of how you played and all that. And I swear, if we didn't sit down and midway through that concert, Joe calls you out on stage, and my buddy looked at me like, "Did you know this was going to happen?"
that's
It's just,
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
funny, yeah.
That was
So,
actually that was my birthday. That I happened to have my birthday off and was just talking to Joe about it. And I was like, like, oh, you're gonna be, in Dallas. It's not too far. And he just kind of got you. He was like, hey, if you get here, he's like, I'll, have you play. You can we'll do all this stuff and everything. That was kind of like my gift from him was like, come sit in for a night.
yeah. Well, he was doing a lot of that. In fact, third or fourth time I saw him was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he had JD Simo come out. And
Right.
of course, JD went on. I mean, he did the guitar work on the Elvis movie for Baz Luhrmann, and another like you, another underappreciated artist that and guitarist, and you guys just
Yeah.
love to play. And that I got to hang with JD for here in Knoxville several years ago, and we were chatting. He goes, "Come on, man, I want to go next door," and he goes, "Some band's playing. I want to see if I can sit in with them." And we just went up. He'd never seen the band before. He goes, "Man, I love doing this." He gets up on stage, they wail around, and then we went back next door to the adjoining club, and then he just did his concert. And it was like, you know, you guys amaze me how you do that. You can just play all night long. But
Right.
well, man, I
Very
love this new album, man.
well, thank you.
You know, I think I can guess what some of the backstory is and all that, having followed
Uh-huh.
you, and you've had some setbacks. You lost your dad. I recently lost my dad, so I have a pretty good idea how you feel. Um, and you've had some challenges, and I love the title of this. As I'm imagining, this is probably reflecting some of what you went through. But what
Oh,
does that title? I'm going to ask the obvious question. What does
Right.
that title actually mean to you on
Yeah.
that?
It was it's a very the whole way it all kind of came about, everything is it's a very telling album. I think like the songwriting, when I went into thinking I was going to try to do this and so kind of pushed myself finally, I thought for 100% I thought I was actually going to probably sit down and write kind of a probably semi sloppy.
alternative hill country blues album that would just be pretty straightforward, and I was going to be delighted if I could do that.
And I really just started pushing. When I sat down, I started writing these songs just almost in order of the album, pretty much. And
Wow.
tossing out songs, of course, that, weren't my favorite ones. But like, I started doing demos at home and having, I would send them to my drummer in LA, who would record at his little studio and send me live drum tracks back. And we were like, hey, this sounds like we're jamming, man. Like this is good. That song's cool. Like this is neat and stuff. And so the songs became more complex, but they're so telling that the whole thing is kind of this is. I never thought I would have a comeback album, but this is
Was my comeback.
yeah, it is really, and it's really just coming back from basically, feeling completely, like death, basically.
A very bleak little era the last 6 or 7 years.
Years that it looked like, I might not be able to ever make any kind of music again. I might not ever tour, record, do any of the stuff that is all I've known for so long. And being in a position where I couldn't play guitar at all is, that was the death sentence for me of being someone that lived and breathed guitars.
I was a tiny, tiny kid.
So, coming up from the ashes, kind of just it's kind of just like the whole thing just kind of had that imagery of a phoenix rising from the ashes. And I was like, yeah, that's us. It's like coming back to where, the first song Back to Life was just to be a statement that, hey, I'm here and we're back and we're strong and it's going to be
The new kind of
Ryan 2.0, I've been calling it. But
I
yeah,
love it.
so Up from the Ashes, it's kind of just our, it's the return. It's basically, we've come back from oblivion.
Well, I admire you for having the tenacity to do that, and I want to get into some of that in a little bit here. But
Yeah.
on the album, how, when did you realize? Well, I think it's another obvious question. I may have a few of those today, but
Good.
was there a specific moment when you realized this album was going to be a bit different than all of your others?
I think I knew right away. When I sat down, the song Back to Life was the first thing I wrote for the album, I believe. And I went about that by I wrote it on and kind of pieced it together originally with I used a bass, but I was like I wanted to be creative and kind of lean more into I knew I was going to lean into a lot more of the slide guitar aspects for solo sections of mine. And then
but I wanted to lean into that side of me
that I always attribute to like my love of Jimi Hendrix and
like that that were very
kind of effects based with a lot of stuff that made them different. That I was like, I could always be experimental live. I would like to do neat things and weird stuff with, different pedals and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to lean into that and be more in the. I thought it was actually going to be sounding a whole lot more like Jack White, White Stripes,
Mm-hmm.
and Black Keys kind of stuff. I was like, well, I'm going to use stuff that I've not used in the past, and I'm going to do things in weird ways. So I was playing the bass through a fuzz face pedal and into weird stuff to try to like see if I could come up with something crazy and big sounding, and started using different kinds of like
octave pedals.
for solo things, and just kind of yeah, it was as soon as the first song was done, I was just actually thrilled that I was like, hey, this actually sounds big, and it's not just kind of like a straightforward blues song and stuff, but it's got, I was actually able to do some heavy riffs and do, there's a bridge and a solo. It's just stuff that I didn't think I'd be actually capable of with where I got to with really with my hand is the whole thing that kind of set me back. And so I think it was the first song that it was just immediately like, oh, this is going to be different. And I really tried to go out of my way to make each song very different. So there wasn't a
Mm-hmm. You to do that experimentation. I mean, you're always known for doing something new and different. Each album has something new and fresh in there all the time. But to do some, to really kind of go bleeding edge, so to speak, for a comeback album, that was gutsy of you.
Right. It had some definite, there was some nerves with it and stuff. I took a trip to Europe last year for just a quick visit to see some friends and kind of check on things and stuff because it had been so long since I had been over. And it was one of the things I kind of discussed that was kind of not a fear, but like just I was very curious that I was like, I've got a bunch of demos and I'm ready to record this album. We're going to get things rolling. And I was like, I think it's going to be really good. But I was like, but I'm worried that, are we going to have fans that come and, they're just the drunk guy in the back that wants to see the fancy finger work of like shredding guitar player kind of stuff.
Right.
And that's all fine. And that's, and I know I was known for so much of that, but I was like, we'll see how many people stick with it that actually listen to the song and are like, hey, that's actually, I like that. But can also find, there's a lot of guitar work still in these songs, but to see it in a different way of,
still trying to play stuff. Like I have songs where the solo work, for me, I was going for it, and I think it came out sounding very much like Jeff Beck. And name another
guitar player that is on that same level as that guy. But so we just had our big CD release show, and it was awesome. It was great. It was at a wonderful place here. And that was a straight rock concert. It was all out rock, and we added some things, and we played a couple of the older songs that we knew were hits with everyone, but
everyone was there
from the first song to the last song. Loved it. Sold a ridiculous amount of CDs. Just everyone's very, very loving the album, and that's just
didn't ask for more of that.
So what song would you point to on this album that best represents who you are today, both as an artist and and as an individual?
I think there's so much. I think it's such a, each album is just such a
snapshot of where you're at the time, and a lot of it is usually what you're going through. Like my last album, Heavy Hearted, was
right. I knew I wanted that to be a more
straightforward blues album, and it was very much so just heavily influenced with the feeling of losing my dad when I did. And so this one, just going through it all, everything's
fresh still. It's a great question. The first thing
mine is,
the song
Searching for You.
song is a thing,
but it was another one that
a lot more complex than I ever thought I was going to be able to do ever again. And I wrote it in the tuning gad, but using a capo on a 12 string, and then
adding in other stuff, but then it switches tunings to standard.
By the time the band comes in, and makes it a little complicated playing that live. But it was.
I was going to say that must be tough. Do you switch guitars or just?
So I also have been playing with an additional guitarist and stuff.
And so he's filling in a lot of that stuff. But we tried to
do the switching thing, and it just wasn't going to happen for going from a 12 string to a 6. But we're still working on that one. But I feel like that was a very, a personal song. I feel like it was very, I felt proud of the way it came out and just the arrangements and stuff. I thought it was orchestrated very nice. And I think that one, along with songs like, well, actually just there's really all of them. I feel like the maturity in my songwriting really has grown forward tremendously.
I agree.
And really just focused on that. And also I've had a lot of comments on my vocals being something people have been really impressed with, and I can't get that because I'll never appreciate my vocals. but I do know that like focusing on that, I wanted to go for it in a different way of not trying to, I don't know, be perfect or trying to do what I think singing's supposed to be. I feel like that gets in your head in a studio that, oh, this comes, you want to like scream as hard as you can for this, and but it's got to hit that note, and it's like, no, just do it the way it's supposed to be there, where it's natural and it sits right, and so a lot of the songwriting, like Searching for You, Edge of Eternity, I feel like that one's a little bit more on the deeper side for me. And then songs that were just very telling of, the song All I've Got is really, I think that's a good one. That was really just another one of me kind of feeling all the despair that I'd been going through and stuff, but basically kind of like back to life, kind of trying to give a statement that, no, I'm not quitting. I'm not backing off. I'm going to go through whatever I got to go through because it's me.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. What was there a track that was particularly difficult for you to write or record, and if so, why?
There was one that it wasn't that it was so difficult to write. I actually wrote it. It's funny that it came along so organically and nicely. Recording it, I feel like I spent a lot of time with it because I feel like I put a lot of pressure on it that I wanted it to be so much and everything, and I'm happy with how it came. And that's the song In the Graveyard. And that was just one of the things that was, with everything that happened with me, and many surgeries and going across the country and everything that happened. So there was just so many times where it would kind of, okay, well, this is going to be the answer. This has to be the answer, and then do it. And it would kind of just plateau to like, you're better, but it's not, really great and stuff. And I would just hit these marks of, being gone for the last 6 years or so. There was so many moments of just, I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't know what to do next, just days of waking up and, well, now what kind of stuff. And in every situation, I would go across town. I would go visit my dad's plot at the cemetery and go visit his grave. And I'd stand there and bawl my eyes out, but I would talk to him the entire time and, ask to hear from him and wanted to know, I need your help. Like, God, I always turn to you. I need you to tell me I don't know what to do next. And it would always be better after that I would always go, and I felt better because I was there and I knew that I got to just gives me that moment of, talking to him. So there was just one day, I think it all came out at once. I got in my car, dried my face up after bawling my eyes out. And it all just kind of came to me in the graveyard. Like I had pretty much already almost the entire chorus was just kind of going in my head a little bit. And I think I was on my way to meet a friend and I got there early to sit and have a cigar. and sat down and I just started writing all the words out on my phone. And when I got home, I sat down and basically wrote pretty much the entire demo for the song. That, but it was a very emotional song, and it's one that I hope that people kind of can picture what's going on with that when they're listening to it. But just that kind of need to, in the chorus, it's that, when I'm lost, when it's too much and I'm just lost, I go to where I feel at home, and that's with you. It just happens to be in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I at different times following you in Facebook on Facebook, I knew you were going through some stuff, man. Just and I, we didn't know each other really. I mean, just acquaintances,
Right.
and but man, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of people like me that sensed it and prayed for you and that type of thing. Um, in addition to that song, it with the whole album, if listeners walk away with one message after hearing the album, what do you hope that message is?
I think the overall message, I know we deviate a little bit here and there. My song Cold Prison Cell, that was kind of a little wink at the whole COVID shutdown kind of thing. That it was like during that it was just kind of to acknowledge that whole time of like, luckily what I went through happened a little during COVID time. So it was like, okay, so it's kind of like I wasn't gone the entire time because everyone was locked up. But
Right.
that was kind of my wink for that. There's a couple other, that are, I think, more bluesy than the others that are about different stuff. But the overall, I think, of the entire album is just resilience, and it's that fighting spirit. And I always like say that that's kind of my heritage, being as Irish as I am. That it was like, yeah, like, it was just one thing after another with everything that's happened, and to just keep trying to get, to the universe trying to knock me down nonstop stuff. I just kept saying no, and I'd get back up and be like, all right, well, what's the next thing? What could I do to basically prove that wrong? And where I'm at now is surreal to have an album, to know that we're getting back on stages, and it's amazing, and I'm you know not to overuse it, I'm just blessed that I'm actually able to do what this is. And yeah, so my overall thing was to just tell people, you can't stop, and I just hope that that's what they take away from it all.
The title, as I was saying earlier, that I mean, it's a powerful one. I mean, I think for those of us who are creatives, empathetic, that type of thing, we can kind of sometimes read between the lines, if not between the letters of within the lines. But up from the ashes, knowing and watching you from afar, I thought, you know, first of all, I have to stop and say I think you should write a book because you may feel like you're writing one through your songs, and you are,
Right.
but I mean, Ryan, what you went through, and I know you and your dad were incredibly close to have to go through a lot of the things that you did without him. I know had to be. I mean that would have to be probably one of the most depressing times you've ever experienced, and I would be curious to know how at those darkest, lowest points, like I told you, I lost my dad back in October, and I was his
Right.
caregiver for 2 years
Yeah.
because he had dementia. And gosh, I mean, when he was gone, I mean, my whole life was focused on him, taking care of him, and
Right.
it was a sweet bond. And then all of a sudden he's gone. And in my case, it's almost like, well, what's my purpose now? I mean, sure, I do this, but in the overall scheme of things, this compared to taking care of a loved one is nothing.
Yeah.
But how I know how I get through the dark times, but how did you, if you don't mind sharing it, what was the things you did consistently that got you through those times?
I think it's the same as I kind of did with this album. I think it's, trying to find literally anything that you can find that kind of shines light in on the situation, and then just leaning full force into any little crack of light you can find. For me, going through the different things, losing dad, to flash forward to everything I went through and stuff like that, is, music was a huge part that just like really was the thing that I could lean into that. And, like even just listening to music, just something that would bring joy, or something, memories of stuff even. And trying to keep my mind busy is always a good one too, to try to like focus so that you're not dwelling too much on, you could make it a much, much darker situation than it actually is, I think, just by sitting and thinking about that happening. There's a famous quote, and I know I'd get it wrong. I think it was a philosopher, Nietzsche, and I think it was something about the thoughts are the shadow of the mind. They're always much darker and simpler than they actually are. And I think that's a truth. That it's like, yeah, if I sat there and was like, all right, this has gotten on to me, I've gone through this, I've had this happen, I've done this, nothing's working, nothing looks like a future anymore, I guess I'm done, and I need to figure out how to start making coffee at a coffee shop for the rest of my life, that would have made it a lot worse if I just sat there like that. So instead, it was like trying to still get inspired, listen to music and stuff like that. It was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I would do it this way, or I wonder if I could do it still if I did it with a slide or stuff like that. Also, just, loved ones, the right loved ones that you can count on to be there, in family. And, I was lucky to have an amazing girl that was with me, and she was there for all the right reasons. Not, she'd only seen me play guitar once, kind of. So,
Wow.
and just she stuck with me through everything we went through, and still is somehow. But yeah, it's just those types of things, to find that good light to shine in on you. That it's like when you see it, just be like, yeah, I need to get as much of it as possible.
Right. Have you been able to? I know for me, whenever I go through something, first of all, I try to see, all right, what else besides the obvious kind of learn from it, so that I can share it with others and maybe they can benefit from my experience. Have you run into any of those kinds of opportunities yet, to where maybe another musician or another friend in your inner circle or something, when they're going through something, that you've been able to take your experiences
Yeah,
and offer encouragement?
there's been a couple cool things. Most recently, there was a caller. I did promo last week for this show, and I was doing something every day, or a couple things a day, doing appearances and interviews for it all. And there was a caller on one of the radio shows I was on that called in, that was just a great fan, but was very worked up, and gave a whole history lesson to the DJ, that was like telling him like, I can't believe it, like, I went through this and stuff. And they were kind of like, I sort of gave up, like I kind of just accepted, that, hey, this happened, and so this is where I'm at now. And that they were saying that they were very inspired to, no, I guess I really should try to do some more. Like, if he was able to come back, maybe there's, real hope for me. And I heard a couple things of that at the show, talking to fans afterwards at the merch table, that said that it had kind of inspired them, that they wanted to go back. And, and some were people that were artists, that they had been doing art for years, and
Something happened. So
they had to kind of give it up.
listen to your story.
Their songs, like they're like, I want to
Go try to do this again. And the most strange one.
and I will keep this as short as I can. I know I'm a little rambly.
But
That's all right. Take your time.
Very interesting story. And my fiance, we were, during like COVID, we were like everyone else, and just binge watching everything that was available.
and we were watching
Some show on read, just
after
episode, and
decided
we needed to take a break one night.
to
Watch
else. the show now. I was like, I just need to clear my head of it. And it's like, fine.
What do you want to watch? And the first thing that came up that I was like, hey, I would watch that. She agreed, was the documentary on the band Nickelback.
And we were like,
okay.
So we put,
And I was like, yeah, I'll watch anything. And I was like, I've never had anything against it, you know. So we watched the show.
with the stuff I was
And through it got to the end, and it was kind of talking about, you know, where the band was, and they were talking to the drummer, and when he was talking,
the way his hand was,
like, they got my attention. And it's really weird. I have an issue with my hand where it's kind of doing this thing now. And I was like, and we just kind of looked at each other, and then we like looked back, and we were like, And he went in to tell a story of all of this stuff that had happened, and it was almost verbatim, like the strange stuff that happened to me that doctors had not been able to figure out. Like, I mean, like out of a complete miracle, just happened to like watch this thing that night. So I, you know, filmed it on my phone so I could remember what he had said, what it was called that he had like gone through. And I told her, I was like, it's a very small world. There's usually a connection to someone through someone that like it's endless. And I was like, who do I know? And I was like, oh, I know the guy that used to manage him. I tried to like look at that avenue. He retired or so some years back. I was like, okay, well, I knew that, but I know the guy that does security for him. I know this guy. I do all these little things. And actually, through just another friend of mine, he was able to help me down a rabbit hole, get a hold of their new manager. And I wrote him a very long email that I was like, hey, I'm not writing as a fan. I'm not trying to get like an autograph or talk to them about it, you know, anything. I'm not trying to push my career. I don't care about any of that stuff. I literally just was hoping I could maybe get a message to the drummer, you know, I'm going through this and I'm a guitar player. Kind of had to elaborate so that he knew it was like not just at home, but I traveled the world playing guitar. This happened to me also, and I can't believe it. It's very rare. You know, if I could just get a message, I'd love to ask him a couple questions. And that manager wrote me back within less than 1 minute, like to my email, and was the sweetest guy. That was, you know, I'm so sorry that you've gone through this. My heart goes out to you. I'll forward this to him, and I hope he gets back to you. That's kind of all I can really do. And I was like, that's great. So a couple of weeks passed, and the drummer, his name's Daniel Adair, got a hold of me, got back to me, and had written me the most detailed, amazing, like 9-page long type email. And it was just everything he's done, what worked, what didn't. Had some, you know, some great insights of stuff that I was kind of in the process of learning about at the same time. And I right about then I went and saw Joe Bonamassa was in town. And I went and I was telling Joe about this, and he was like, hey, you have to tell my guitar player Josh Smith about it.
Yep.
And Josh came over, and I started telling Josh about it, and he knew everything. He knew the condition name that I didn't even know yet. Like, he knew about that, and he knew all these different things that people have done that are musicians that have kind of gotten to such a fluid level. It kind of became this weird thing. And told me about this medical glove you can wear that makes you play guitar again. Like, you know, how people were getting shots of Botox in their arms for like nerves and muscles that was healing up everything, like great stuff. So I was blown away by that, and told the drummer, Daniel Adair, about it. That, hey, my friend Josh just told me about this. And he was like, that's so interesting. I kind of just, you know, I did all this, but I kind of stopped doing anything because I felt like this is as good as I can ever be. And he wrote me back like a week or so later that he had actually gotten a hold of the pair of the gloves, and it improved things so dramatically that he ordered like 18 more pairs of the gloves just to always have. But was the sweetest of sweet guys. It was like, this was like such a fate thing that you saw that, and that, you know, I was able to give you info, but then you inspired me to look into like new stuff that you knew about. And he was like, I should have not given up, but just he was very thankful that I had actually reached out. That was the other crazy thing, that I was actually able to get a message to him while he was on tour. But so long way around, he was one that was kind of thanking me for going through things, to sharing my story with him, inspired him to get back into some avenues of trying to get better.
Well, and it's interesting because it started out with him helping you, and
Yeah,
giving
exactly.
you information, and you were able to give back, and that had to feel especially special, if that makes sense.
Oh,
But
definitely. Yeah.
what, what? I mean, the album you just had your release party. Um, what? Well, before I go into what's next, what song for anybody that's because I get people watching my interviews, maybe they're not neck deep into music like you and I would be, and so I may be turning you on to a bunch of people who's not heard of you before. If you were going to point to one song um, that you'd call your calling card, or as Chris Stahey said, or Stamey said from the DBs, he called it the gateway drug to the rest of the staffs.
Mhm.
Which song on this album would you point to introduce people to it?
This album, to introduce them, we kind of chose Back to Life as the single, kind of for that reason. And I think that's a pretty good one because I think it shows the all around, really kind of the power behind things, but also has a good deal of the guitar work, but I think also features some neat effects stuff that I was doing with it. I would say that, or my other one that I kind of feel like is the song "All I've Got." I think
Mm-hmm.
that's it's an incredibly powerful one that's definitely one that grabs everyone that hears it just is totally like, oh my God, I immediately was already like, oh yeah, I'm already sold on the song and stuff.
Right.
Um, so I would have to go with one of those.
What's next for you? I know you got some. I looked at your itinerary. I see Europe is coming up later this year. What's happening between now and then, and after that?
We're we're looking at doing some stuff that's going to be kind of just here and there in the U.S. for the time being. I'm playing next week in Dallas, opening for my friend Ian Moore at a
I saw that.
theater. Um, he's been a
Muddy
huge,
Jesus.
oh yeah, he's been a huge influence of mine since I was very young, and we've become very good friends over the years, and that's going to be a great show. That's just going to be fun. He played on the Sass Jordan album, actually, also
Really?
to make it the small world. He played on the song. I think it's called "Give," is the song. But yeah, so that's going to be great. And then yeah, we're talking with everyone in Europe right now, kind of looking at coming in probably like towards the end of the year just for a very short little run. I said just to make a couple of appearances with the album so we're not waiting a year to get over there of like, here's what I did last year.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to try to like make that happen. And then, we're already looking at next year too of, festival seasons and all the normal getting back to work over there kind of stuff. Just a lot of work. So now we're just kind of trying to coordinate that with everyone. But and then it's kind of just back into the swing of things, the endless cycle of tour and record and try to, I'm hoping by next year, by the time spring comes around with tours there, I'll be already working on the next project or hopefully completing the next project even.
Well, good. Well, I look forward to hearing those. My door is always open to you so that we can talk. If there's anything between now and then that I can do my part to help get the word out, please don't hesitate to reach out. But
Oh,
I'm a fan, man, and I've been praying
you've
for
you've been
you.
in, you've been in my corner for years, and I just want you to know that I super appreciate your support and all the well wishes, everything. It's not lost on me. So thank you very much. I very
Well,
appreciate.
well, I that's an easy thing to do when you see somebody going through what you went through. It's you know, you gotta. We're in this whole thing called life together, man. We just got to help each other out, and so I hopefully I can see you again in person and we
Yeah.
can hug each other's neck again. And I haven't made it to the guitar show. I moved to East Tennessee 12 and a half years ago, and I haven't made it back to Dallas to do, to hit the guitar show. I used to hit it every year. but I've got
I
friends there that I'd like to see.
Yeah. When I was very young, we went very often. We would go to the Dallas show, we'd go to the Arlington show, and that was kind of our thing for a good while. And then there was so many years that I wasn't able to go. I'd usually be touring and doing stuff that
Right.
kind of kept it from it. But I went for the first time a couple years ago. It was the first time I've been back in many years. Of my future father-in-law and a couple of friends and stuff. We all got to go there, and it was very cool. It was good. It was neat to go back and see the same guitar that didn't sell 15
Boy,
years.
is that the truth.
Like I
But,
remember that one.
I've yet to go to NAMM. That's on my bucket list of things to do. But, Jimmy Wallace's show, I mean, I can't compare it to NAMM because I've not gone, of course. But
Right.
but to me, that's such a intense thing to go through, and then all the
Amazing.
stages that he always has set up, and you never. I mean, I remember bumping into Joe Satriani, Neil Schon,
Right.
Damon Johnson. I mean, all sorts of people just milling
Yeah.
around. They not drawing attention to themselves.
Yeah. I think with the first year I went, I bumped into Billy Gibbons. He was kind of in disguise, hiding, like the beard was under the shirt and was kind of hiding off and stuff.
Actually, it's become such the Mecca music festival now. And I remember when they were kind of first started, the first year we really with the big concert out back at the fairgrounds there was Kenny Wayne Shepherd headline, who I just watched the clips of your interview with him this morning.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I actually met Kenny, was at that guitar show for that festival. And now he's one of my absolute favorite people there. He's just the best person I think that there is.
Always gracious to me, and he's gone through some stuff too, and
Right.
people think that that are the casual listener or the casual concert goer that you guys have it made. They see the attention and the glitz on stage, but I mean, I'm not a musician. I can only empathize with what you guys have to go through, but it's not an easy business. But that you guys are persistent and resolute to be able to push through whatever challenges come your way is equally inspiring to me as much as your music is, and so I appreciate that about you, Ryan, and it's not been lost on me what you had to do to get back to where you are today, and I pray continued success more than you had before. I hope it comes back multiples more than what you had before all the challenges that took place. So, well, listen, I'll let you get back to your stuff there. I am thrilled that we got to talk, and like I said, my door's always open to you. Let's stay in touch, and I'm going to watch your itinerary, and if we're ever within easy driving distance of each other, I'm going to come see you. So
You better. It's been awesome
All right.
talking. Anytime. Love chatting with you.
All right, likewise. We will talk again soon.
Sounds perfect.
All right, take care, Ryan. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song for Boomerocity is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is H-O-P as in Paul, E. And you can find out more about Quentin Hope and his music at QuentinHope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2026.